what would you answer to the following question? How much of your potential have you actualized? In whatever area it may be. Now the truth is it's a trick question. Why? Because the real question has to be is, do I even know what my potential is like? How can I know how much I've actualized if I don't know what's in there? So if someone were to tell you that in your bank account, for example, you have $1 million, so you could say, I've spent 10% of it. But if you don't know whether it's 1 million or 1 billion or 1,000 or nothing, how can you even talk about that? So that's what we'd like to discuss here, because it affects every aspect of our lives. Our work lives, our businesses, our professional lives, our personal lives, our social lives. In a way, you could say all education is all about helping you discover, at its best, of course, helping you discover the reservoirs of potential that you carry within you and learning how to actualize it. I mean, just to use a very simple example. When you're drawing water from a well, or for that matter, an oil well. So the water is embedded somewhere deep down in the ground. And you're figuring out a way, using instruments and tools, to draw water from there. The same is exactly the same it is with each one of us. Your soul has a tremendous amount, reservoirs of skills, talents. Some of them we're born with inherently, some we acquire. And in a way, life and success in life can be measured, the ratio of the potential over the actual. We still have to get to the question, how do you recognize, how could you discover what your potential is? But regardless, whatever you may know of it, your goal is to not allow it to just remain in the potential. You meet people, sometimes they were aware, sometimes they're not aware. Tremendous talent. I remember meeting a child music prodigy. Brilliant. It was recognized almost by accident. He happened to sit down as a 4 or 5-year-old at a piano, and what came out was magical. So to the credit of his parents, they bought him a piano, they gave him lessons, and he's far from actualizing it all, but he's on his way. That's what good teachers do, good mentors, good parents, of course. You look at the person you care for, your child, your student, and you see something there, and you help cultivate it in a loving way, in a nurturing way. What you're trying to do is exactly that. Take from those inner reservoirs, those inner resources, and bring it forth. Not to do so requires skill. It's not so simple. Because it's not just recognizing, it's also finding the right instruments to draw from it, the right ways to motivate someone. And there are ways to do it in a positive way. There are ways that can be also actually quite negative. Critique, judgment, anger. But a good teacher, a good mentor will help someone do exactly that. No greater gift in life. They're not going to give it to you, but they'll help you find the right tools. Think of writing, for example. How to write properly. How to speak properly. What are you really learning? The speaking and the writing are not the skill. They're the way you're expressing yourself. If you have a good teacher, they'll teach you how to find the right words. Not too many words, not too few. I remember we had an English teacher. I was in 10th grade. And, students, sometimes we'd be more interested, sometimes less. But there was one thing that I remember that intrigued me. He gave us an assignment in the classroom to describe a scene, a beautiful scene. It was actually 2 scenes. We each had to choose. So I chose a sunset and water on a beach, the waves coming up on a beach. And I described the sun setting in the horizon, giving off this glow or haze. Same thing with the beach. He taught me, in just a few words, the power of an adjective. He said, don't just write the sun. Write the red sun or the setting sun. Adjective and adverbs. Well, for a noun was an adjective. Or even furthermore, you could write the sun setting in the gray sky. And it brought alive the sentence in a completely new way. And immediately I recognized the importance of those descriptive adjectives and adverbs. Not just running briskly, running quickly. And the same thing with the beach. It literally brought it alive in a visual way, in a poetic way. It remains with me till this day. We're talking now over 50 years ago. So what was the skill here? That doesn't suddenly turn you into a great writer, but you've discovered a tool to express yourself more than if you had just said the sun. No, the blazing sun, the warm sun, the red sun, the sinking sun. And the same is with every form of education. You teach someone the tools that will draw out more than you would with limited tools. Same thing as when you learn how to read musical notes. Can you play by ear? Yes, you can play by ear, but the musical notes will add. So to get back to our discussion here, we all have tremendous potential. That's a given. We may never know how much. That's also a given. One thing is for sure, that we never actualize all our potential. That's the reason it's called potential. We actualize some of it, and sometimes more of it. And everything you take upon, every endeavor you take upon yourself in life, is going to be determined in how much you actualize. Now, in order to do that, you need, as I mentioned, a mentor. You need confidence, courage, because many times the fear of the unknown or the lack of experience can cause someone to not want to tread there, to stay in your comfort zone. And a drive to want to succeed. In areas in my life that I tried to succeed in, it doesn't come easily. You have to pay a price. The price is effort. And you make errors, and you learn from them, and you get humbled. But above all, what I really want to emphasize, what I find a big problem, is many people have good tool chests. They're taught the instruments. But what they don't know and don't have confidence in is their great potential. I've met many people, who I immediately can tell are very talented and skilled, but they don't believe in themselves. For whatever reason. Often it comes a critical childhood where parents and others dismissed you, invalidated you, did not give you that vote of confidence, so you stop believing in yourself, or you're afraid to be criticized. So one of the most important things is to begin with is to help a person, number one, to believe in their great potential, and number two, to act on it, that you have, if you apply yourself, the ability to actualize it actually. So how do we get to a place like that? So I'll begin with the beginning. Even though it's not the only way to begin, it's not the only entry point, which we'll discuss in a moment. But if you think of it in a logical way, it seems like the most important entry point, but I acknowledge it's not always the easiest way to begin. And what is that? to simply study about yourself, your soul. What does your soul contain inside of it? The first thing you learn when you study, we'll call it what I like to call the psycho-spiritual teachings, is the X-ray it provides, a blueprint, an X-ray of your soul. So for instance, let's take on the physical side. A doctor gives you an X-ray of your body. You could see the bone structure, see the muscles, and often you could tell that there's certain ingredients here that have tremendous potential. Because without the X-ray, you don't know what's going on beneath the surface. But how much more so if you can get an X-ray of your soul? Let's take the brain. What's the potential of your mind? We all are told that we only use 5%, 7%, I don't even know the numbers. It's minuscule of our minds throughout our lifetimes. And it makes sense. The mind, as we know, when you stretch it, when you push it, it can do things that are beyond amazing. Often it's pressure that's necessary, a crisis, a challenge, resistance. What does that challenge do? Like anything in life, when there's resistance, you push more. If you want to know how strong let's say, your forward thrust with your arm is, it's going to be very difficult if you just do this. But if I hold you back, and you have to push, that propels you to new heights. That raises the bar. So challenges, interestingly, and resistance is one of the key things to all growth. Because it forces you to actualize more potential. Because you need to dig deeper. Because your regular resources and your regular strengths are just simply not enough. Competition. Run a mile. But if you run with a competitor, it's going to propel you and compel you to run faster. So all these forces, what they're doing is digging deeper within you. So studying about your soul and understanding it is invaluable because it begins to make you comfortable and say, one second, I have this inside me. It's not a question mark. It's not a doubt. It's actually there. Years ago, I wrote a book which became very popular called The Spiritual Guide to Counting the Omer. It's actually, the time is coming soon. After Passover is when you count the 49 days. But the truth is, it's a year-round book, actually, conceptually. The counting is the mitzvah. The counting is between Passover and Shavuos. But what is it about? It's exactly that. It's an X-ray of your emotional makeup. According to the Kabbalists, we have 10 faculties. Conscious faculties, I should add. 3 cognitive ones, and 7 emotional. Let's focus on the 7 emotional. In Hebrew, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. Loosely translated, love and kindness, discipline, compassion, determination, ambition, yielding, flexibility, bonding, and dignity. 7 emotions that cover the entire spectrum of your emotional life. Each one of them further breaks down. The 7 within the 7, that's what adds up to 49. There's the kindness within kindness. There's the discipline within kindness. There's the compassion within kindness. The ambition or drive and determination within kindness, and so on. And then the same thing with discipline. The kindness within discipline. The discipline within discipline. The compassion within discipline. You can find it online. We have an app, a free app, which you can download, My Omer. Why am I mentioning it? Because this is a perfect example. So you start studying. You go through this book, for example. There are key questions it asks you to help you identify what's the status, what's the diagnosis of your chesed? How giving are you? Does it come natural? Is it difficult? Do you give too much and don't know when to stop? You suffocate people with love. Same thing with discipline, same thing with compassion. Once you ask these questions, you're compelled to have to dig deeper and say, one second, let me see, what am I like? So as much as you may know yourself, when you ask the specific questions, you can discover and you can come away with a new picture. You can say a snapshot of what the X-ray or the DNA of your soul. In this case, your emotions. And that immediately tells you, I may not know how deep each emotion may be, but am I actualizing it all? But as soon as you know more about yourself, you immediately, let's say, the first time I ever really wrote something was a color war song in camp. The guy who was supposed to write the theme song for our team fell ill. He was in the infirmary. So the general of our team came to me and said, your father's a writer, no? So why don't you write a song? I said, my father's a writer. It doesn't mean I can write a song. I'd never done it. I'd written some compositions in school, but like everybody. Anyway, he said, we have no choice. You have 5 hours. We have to have the song ready by this evening. Okay, as often, pressure is what does things. I sat down under a tree. I hummed a song that I was aware of. Nice song. And I had to write, it was about prayer, actually. About connecting to the transcendent. And I wrote a song. I remember till this day. It's a little embarrassing when I look back. We actually won. But, relatively, we were all kids, teenagers. But what forced me to do it? Because he said, we have to have it. I had no idea if I could do it or not. Today I'm a writer. I'm not going to say how good of a writer I am. That I'll let others decide. And writing always comes difficult. But what happens is, once you test yourself, you suddenly see and you're pushed, you start saying, oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I can do it better. Then you read what you wrote and you don't like it, so it forces you to improve. So in other words, awareness of your skills is critical. Because without that, it's easy to just say, I don't have that skill, I can't do that. But how many things are you really capable of doing that you don't even know? I would go a step further. How many things that you may be even excellent at that you fell in by mistake? Like in my case. There was no one else to do it. You ended up doing it. You ended up being pretty good. Maybe not the first time. Maybe not the second time. But in time. How often does that happen? Much more than we even imagine. So the first step, real entry point, is to get to know yourself. Know thyself. We have a course that I did was called Discover Your Personal Mission Statement. Another name for it, Midlife Miracle. So I have that, I think it's a 6-part course. I think in part 3, and pretty intense and in-depth questionnaire that asks you questions about yourself. You come away with a whole new understanding of yourself. And in that context, what happens is, then you have a bar. Now that you know a little more about yourself, you could say, now, let me work on actualizing, or let me work on harnessing, or let me work on taming maybe some of my natural dispositions or predispositions. But there's other entry points. Another entry point may be just that you feel the urge and the urgency of getting something done. So since the job has to get done, there's no one else to do it, or you have to find someone, so that compels the same idea to start looking where's their potential. And or it could happen, like I said, by accident. Maybe there are no accidents, but at least on an ostensible level, it just comes your way. The point being is that the first step of understanding your potential requires some effort, something that will get you there. And it could be a crisis, it could be a challenge, it could be a type of urgency, and it could be simply you discovering yourself by learning more about yourself. I find it sad that in schools, at home, how much are we taught about ourselves? We're taught skills to do things. Now, of course, skills also will teach you about yourself, but I don't just mean psychology. Just about yourself. Like, what do you really enjoy? You like to draw? You like music? You like to read? And very often the things we like, some of us, sometimes we're dissuaded from doing, or it doesn't fit into the mold, or our parents don't think it's good for us. What they're all doing with that is extinguishing, I don't want to use the word extinguish, it's a strong word, but what they're doing is weakening our confidence in something that may be the thing that gives us most pleasure, that we enjoy so much. I loved reading when I was young. I still love reading. I don't have so much time. I was a voracious reader. Had my parents said, we don't like you reading so much, go do something else, they would have amputated a part of myself. Again, it's a strong word, maybe not amputate, but so the most important thing is to give people that confidence, especially if it's something that's a positive. We're not talking about a bad habit, something you want to avoid. All of this is meant to access and become aware of that potential. And then comes the other side, not just recognizing an awareness, the actualization. And actualization is actively working on it. You see your child or you see someone you care about likes to write. Even if they don't write well, give them a project, incentivize them, motivate them. You cannot imagine what you're doing for someone. It's one of the most beautiful things is to see a person actualized. Because you're taking raw matter. I don't know about you, but I always felt like when I see different foods that have been discovered, I think about who first discovered the first coffee bean, or for that matter, chocolate bean, or tea, or that matter, grain. You see, it's a coffee bean. How would you know that that can be turned into a coffee? This was all actualizing potential. And probably could have been by accident. The bean may have fallen down on the ground and the sun heated it or something melted. Grain is a real fascinating one. How did anyone figure out that a stalk of grain, that after you grow it, then you cut it, and then you take out the flour from it and separate the chaff from the... And then you can take that, and still the flour then you take and mix it with water. And you bake it and you have bread. Life, if you think about it, today a lot has been discovered already, is all about actualizing potential, both in technology. Electricity was always around. Atomic and nuclear energy was always around. We just didn't know of it. So the first thing is awareness. And then the second is to tapping into it and drawing it forth. Applying that to us, same idea. So the more you get to know your soul, that's the awareness part. The next is the tools. And the tools can be, like I said before, writing tools, musical tools, making it a regular practice to sing. You may not be the best singer, you may not have the best voice, but every person should sing a song. In the shower or in the public, because it teaches you to express yourself. Will everyone end up being a great singer? No, of course not. But expressing yourself. With the opposite of that is silencing someone. Quieting them down, not letting them express them, not letting them spread their wings. That's what it really comes down to. So we need to begin looking at ourselves and those around us. First of all, recognize the tremendous potential we have. So often we hear from people who just tell us they throw cold water on our dreams, our aspirations, our ideas. How many times have I heard people have said, who do you think you are? Stop, give up on all these, chaloimus is a word in Hebrew or Yiddish, dreams. Idealism. You're naive. Basically, conform, just fall in line, stop being so out of the box, stop being so radical, revolutionary. That's not the people you want to be around. I'm not telling anyone which friends they should choose or not choose, but you want people who are the opposite. You come up with something, they say, that's a great idea. I encourage you, push you to go out of your comfort zone, go out of other people's comfort zone. Are you always going to succeed? No, that's part of life. But the greatest risk is not taking a risk. So being around people that encourage that, you have parents, educators, mentors that do that, that's the greatest blessing in life. One of the greatest blessings, I should say. Further, someone that actually helps you understand yourself. That teacher, who I should reach out to be honest, and thank him, taught me the power of the adjective. I don't know if he knew even what, he was a teacher, he did it. But I can't say changed my life, but he definitely contributed something vital. I learned the potential of words. That if you know how to use them properly, you can express things that you wouldn't even imagine that you can express, just by adding an adjective. And the same thing in so many other areas in life. Those of you that have been blessed with having someone in your trajectory, in your journey, was there the right time, the right place, it may not even been planned, they said something, they were there, they encouraged you, they recognized talent, gave you that vote of confidence. It remains with me. Today, young people come speak with me, and they tell me, everyone says, who do you think you are? You're 18 years old, 20 years old, you're going to write? You think you're going to be the next Shakespeare? You know, I always have the opposite attitude. Anyone who comes to me that I see that just sitting with them and giving them respect and dignity, I say, look, go for it, try it out. Some will have the staying power, some may not. I find it to be a tremendous gift. And I will go out of my way to help young people. Just to tell them, try it, don't give up. Don't listen to that person, go to somebody else. And I've seen talents, that's how talent gets cultivated. We live often in a world of a lot of exploitation, where if I can benefit from it, then I'll cultivate your talent. But what's wrong? What do you lose as a person with some experience and you see someone? Give them the benefit of the doubt. Give them a positive word of confidence. Even more so, introduce them to someone that may help them. You never know where this goes. And when people say, who do we think we are? What do you think? You're going to be the next this one, next that one? And who do you when did that person become who they were? They were also once little children, or not even born, and then they came into this world, and they did actualize potential. So you may not always live on that up to that level, but every one of you, every one of us, has something indispensable to contribute to life that you and only you can contribute. You must know that. You have a song, you have many songs inside you that are your songs. And let's not fall into the trap, that sad, tragic poem of Oliver Wendell Holmes, The Voiceless. Alas to those that die with their song still inside them. Horrible, terrible. You have song inside you. No, don't die with your song still inside you. Many of us are singing someone else's song, or not singing at all, or singing in a limited way, living up to others' expectations. You have your song. Find people who will encourage you to sing your song. Not their song, your song. Your unique song. And there's more than one song. That's called actualizing your potential. Now, of course, this applies also to work. I mentioned before business and so on, but above all, it applies to your mission in this world. Why are you here? You have something unique, irreplaceable, to accomplish and contribute that you and only you can do. That's the first given. The second is now figure out, learn about yourself, try things out, experiment. You never know where it's going to come from. You try something, you say, you know what, I enjoyed that. Not bad at it. Or maybe I'm not good at it, but let me hang around people who are better. Learn from those that are more experienced. Allow yourself to be trained, so to speak. Like residency. Where you're working for someone, an intern, and the likes. And then finally, actually jump into the water. Do things, try things, learn on the job. Nobody has it all figured out at the beginning. You'll make mistakes, but you learn from them. And that's how you start actualizing. And getting back to the original question, can you ever know what your full potential is like? Only one way. If you really can connect to the God, divine dimension within yourself, and you suddenly discover that you have infinite potential. And we do have that in every aspect of our lives. And you'll say, is it actual infinite or is it relative infinite, meaning relative to where you are? Fine, we can debate that issue. But let's put it this way. There's a long way to go before you can say, I'm close to fulfilling my entire potential. I don't know if there's anyone on this earth that ever lived that could say that. As a matter of fact, the more you actualize, the more you realize how much more there is. Like climbing the mountain. You see bigger horizons. But the main thing is to start going. Because you could say, okay, so infinite, that's not even worth trying, take the first step. No. Those steps, every step gets you closer. And the fact that you may feel even more distant the closer you get because you realize how much more there is to know, that doesn't disqualify that which you achieve. When a person who's 80 years old and has studied and is a brilliant person, and they say, I don't know. I came to a point where I don't really know. It's not the same I don't know of a 2-year-old who I don't know because he never studied anything. Here's someone who has learned much, but he realizes the more you know, the more you see how much more there is to know. So the growth is there. And to also embrace the mystique of life. Not everything has to be contained or understood or controlled. It's not all about that. It's not all about acquisition. It's about embracing and being absorbed at times in a higher reality and a higher truth. Most important thing, know that you literally have tremendous potential. And for your own good and for the good of the world, we need you to sing your song. We're in a symphony, a cosmic symphony. And everyone has to play their instrument. And if you don't do it, I'm not complete. And if I don't do my part, you're not complete. So we both need each other, and each one of us is needed. And the process, we learn the synergy, more than the sum of the parts, that emerges when we bring all that together. And then there's some higher force that's more than, as I said, the sum of the parts that manifests into what we would call this grand cosmic symphony. So wherever you are in your life, the time has come to start being you and actualizing as much as you can and utilizing the resources you have, the people around you. Get others to motivate you if you need that. It's very difficult to do it alone. And you will see unbelievable results. Fruit. And fruit is another analogy. It began as a seed, and then it turns into a fruit. And a fruit that will bear other seeds, and therefore other fruit, perpetually. May we each be blessed to focus on the positive, instead of fighting demons and darkness, to focus on what we're capable of, the possibilities. And dare to make a move. The first steps may be a little frightening, may be hesitant, but once you do it, it gets easier and easier and easier. I look forward to see the beautiful results of what you look like when you spread your wings. So if you don't mind, please share it with me. Just to have some nachas, some joy from seeing something of that, because it's the most beautiful thing to see when potential is actualized. Thank you. This has been Simon Jacobson. Simon Jacobson, meaningfullife.com is our website. Please, if you've enjoyed this, subscribe to our offerings, to our growing, robust YouTube channel. We now also offer simonjacobson.ai, a virtual version of me that you could speak to or chat with. We're experimenting, so check that out. As I said, we have a website, but we also have now MLC Global in foreign languages. So many of these messages are now being translated and reaching all kinds of different countries and peoples and dialects and races and you name it. And finally, please share. And I'd love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your comments. Be blessed and be well. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate.